Hey everyone, welcome back to the Workin' Dirt channel. Today we're going to do an overdue big second maintenance on the Branson 3015H tractor right behind me. We have all our fluids and filters ready to go. We're going to touch everything from greasing, oil, the hydraulic fluid, the fuel filter, you name it, and hopefully we're going to cover some questions you might have. So stick around, let's get started. First, I want to go over what products we're going to be using today because I know there's a lot of questions out there and I've been doing a lot of reading and searching on different tractor forums, and I think I'm pretty set on what I feel comfortable using, and it's pretty much similar to the stuff I used on the first maintenance. So let's go through it. We have the Napa Premium Heavy Duty Tractor Hydraulic and Transmission Fluid. Then for the engine, we're going to go with the Rotella 15W40. And then for the coolant, which I think this raises some of the biggest questions, and I spent a lot of time on this and settled on the most basic of options, which is your typical ethyl glycol green fluid. I talked to two dealers and this is what they recommended, so I imagine if they're corresponding with Branson directly, then they're getting the right information you would expect, right? But I know other guys were thinking, hey, the Bransons use somewhat of a Cummins engine, you know, the A series engine, so you should use what Cummins is requiring, which is like either Fleet Guard or Cat 1 coolant fluid. But I think that's just a little, I mean, the tractor comes with the green fluid already, so I'm going to stick with some basic stuff. Now I am going to use something slightly better. This is some Walmart stuff. It's going to work, but I'm going to change it to something maybe a little better, you know. This is Super Tech. I don't know if it's going to be super protective. We'll see. But any fluid change is better than not changing a fluid, right? Okay. And then for our gear oil for the front axle, we're going to go with the SAE 90 weight gear oil from Napa. And then filters, I went with all the OEM filters, and there's a lot of discussion on this on the internet, which is, hey, just get the cross-reference filters, but you'll quickly find out that on certain tractors, for the hydraulic filters, they use a different inside to the filter, I think on the suction, so it's not a direct cross-reference filter. You got to be careful, you'll burn up your pump. So I don't want to take any chance on that. I just went with the OEM stuff. So for our 3015H tractor, you could just slow down the video and get the model number for that's the engine oil filter. This is one of the hydraulic filters, which doesn't have a number on it, but your dealer will know. This is the air filter, which you could probably save money on just blowing out your air filter. That's what I did on the first one. I think I'm going to change it this time. And then we got the fuel filter, and I believe this is the full assembly, so that all we're going to do is take off and replace, because I guess guys were having trouble replacing just the bulb before, so I think they just said, hey, let's make it easier on the consumers, and we're going to replace the whole thing. And I don't have any water separation yet. You might have the same question, like, hey, if I don't see water, then we should be good just to keep using that. Well, it's highly recommended to change it, because it's not just the water separation. You could have contaminants or bio buildup in there. So it's better just to take the safe route, because you want your tractor to last a long time, and a piece of equipment is only going to last as long as you take care of it. So, or it's only as good as you take care of it, right? So we're going to go with everything pretty much OEM. And behind I have a bunch of reservoirs. I saved my old cans to put the old hydraulic fluid back in, and I got some other cans to hold my extra coolant, so have all that ready, have some gloves ready. I got a bunch of different funnels because there's a bunch of different angles for all this draining. But let's get started. And yes, she is dirty, but we will give her a nice little bath when we are done here. But first we'll get started with changing the oil. So we're going to get underneath and get the drain plug removed. So don't forget, once you're under your tractor, look at bolts and and other things, or when you're all done, make sure you're under here looking, because all heavy equipment will rattle something loose. But we're gonna start with, like I said, removing the oil pan bolt, which is right, let's see if you can see it right here. We're using a 17 millimeter. Ow! Yeah, that felt good. Okay. We'll crack the oil filter, because someone mentioned if you crack the oil filter to let it breathe, the fluid will come out a little more laminar flow, less turbulent, because turbulence can pull a little debris from your other places. So the smoother the fluid comes out, the better, right? So I think we'll do that. We'll take his advice and see if that works. All right, we're gonna do a little simultaneous action. We're gonna drop the bolt and then loosen the oil filter at the same time to create that laminar flow and suction at the filter so that it doesn't. There you go. And yes, that oil is dark, which means it's slightly overdue. Okay, so some guy said if you use a Ziploc bag, you can probably catch most of the oil if you slip around it while you're taking it off. And I'd say it caught about 80% of it. I think that's worth a like, subscribe, and share. Now it's time to put the drain plug back on. Give her a little wipe. And be careful, there's a little lip in here, which is awesome because it doesn't allow you to over tighten on the O-ring. But it looks like the O-ring stuck to the pan, so we need to just stick it right back on. All right. To take off your oil filter, you could also use a strap wrench, or they have those little pliers that have a big arm, kind of like a channel lock. I didn't bring those, but the strap wrench works pretty well. This is an old school one. This is one from Harbor Freight. And I was prepared, if it was a little slick, to go get a little sap off the tree and create a little more friction. Friction's your friend. Not all the time, but some of the time. All right, we'll keep a little oil on the O-ring to keep it lubed up. Just like that. Oh, and then you know what? We will write the hour. Actually, you can write the hours it's at right now and the date, which is a good method. But I'm going by the book right now. And yes, I'm a few hours overdue, but as long as I stick by the book, we'll be okay. I'll still probably write it. And hand tight right there. Okay, now we need to fill it up. And it's good to keep a set of brushes, like a brass brush or a nylon brush, to get some dust away from your lid before you open it. So we're gonna open this bad boy up. This is your oil. It says oil on it. And then pick your favorite funnel. It says the engine takes 4.3 liters of oil. Okay, we're gonna check the oil level. First, we're gonna wipe it off. So as you can see, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's 6 marks, and when the oil's clear, it is hard to see. So, see, it's pretty clear now. It's up to the 3rd level, so we definitely can put some more in it. All right. So as you can see, well, if you can't see, because like I said, it's clear, then put it on a towel. Oh, geez. And make sure the wind's gone. Then you can see how far the wet line went up. So it was all the way wet. I could see it's right there, which is good. I'd say that's even a touch over full, just a smidge, but the engine's got to cycle and push oil to that oil filter. So a little bit will be pushed in there, and I think we're perfect. One thing I kind of forgot to do was to start the engine to get it warm, but it's not too cold right now, and because if it's warmer, the viscosity is a little thinner, which will allow more to come out a little easier. But whatever, next time. All right, now we're gonna go to changing the hydraulic fluid. According to the manual, it says there's 2 drain bolts. One right here, or maybe the other was, I'll have to look again. So, a little lefty-loosey action. Oh, geez. Oh, there we go. Here's a little tight. Tight, too tight. Look at that pretty fluid. And then we got our transmission hydraulic filters right here and another one right here. Probably release the plug, the fill plug on the transmission in the back so that it'll breathe and let the fluid come out a little faster. So I'm going to do that right now. Don't forget, when you take off the transmission plug, the bottom there's a magnetic little magnet inside. A magnet in the bottom, you can see it right there. And I wiped off the tiniest bit of residue there. Nothing to make me worried, but you want to clean it off while you have it. Wow, this one just barely fits. Okay. Lefty loosey, yep. Oh geez. All right, before I finish unscrewing that, I don't know if you can see, there's a little dust coming off the top like that. So I'm gonna use my towel and wipe off any dust that can fall into here. I'm blocking view. Catch it though, I'm gonna catch all the oil. Oh. Turn it slow. And inspect. Looks like we just hit the clean. Again, see how there's a little dirt up top? I don't know, even if we washed it, I think there'd be a little crud left over. But yeah, we're gonna wipe off that dirt so we don't wipe it in. Okay, I had to shut things down last night because it was getting late and I had a few questions and I didn't want to mess anything up. So it always pays to get good rest and start fresh on a new day. So those items were basically the hydraulic filters had a different letter at the end of the model number, and I did not want to mess up the hydraulic filter or the pump by not having the right one. So I confirmed with the dealer. He said yes, the next letter is just the next revision of the part, so you're fine. And even though this is blue and the other one's white, again, that doesn't matter, he said. So I'm going to put the new filters on. And then the other item was the fuel filter assembly. I wanted to know the exact way to install it so that I don't create or put air into the system, which is always an issue with diesel motors, right? And what I came up with after talking to him, he said just, yeah, replace the whole filter assembly and bleed the screw like I did. So again, I put it on, put the hoses on, open the bleed screw back here, turn the ignition to on, and it filled the bowl up. And there was some little bubbles, so I tapped and that helped get the little bubbles out, which is good. And then I put a little fuel in this tube and then reconnected it quick as I could. And I don't know how much of air can cause an issue in your injector pump, but I don't want any. So still to this day, I don't know or whether part of the procedure should be to crack a bleed screw on the injector pump, which I believe this is one right here, but I can't see that in my service manual. So if any other guys out there know, that's where we can help each other out. So with all that said, we're gonna get back after finishing this maintenance. All right, so here's the old one. So to show you, there's the model number difference. You can see hopefully in the video. Okay, we're going to start filling up the hydraulic fluid. And as you can see, it's already clean around there. Hopefully you can see. Speaking of, it's probably good to take off your grater box. There we go. Okay, I'm never doing the tractor maintenance dirty again. I'm going to wash the tractor because as I was sticking my smaller funnel in there, I somehow hit a tiny bird turd on my arms here, and it went right down my funnel. Two small little turd crumbs. So I'm gonna vacuum them out right now. Okay, let's try this again. We're gonna put that right there. All right, we put in about 6 gallons, but I think I did get the 2 crumbs that I saw go in there. We got to check and see where we're at on our dipstick. And again, this is hard to read, so you need to use like a blue towel to put it on. See, it's clear, silver stick. You can't tell nothing. So we're gonna wipe this off and get a new towel. Okay, we're gonna put this in nice and easy. That moment of truth. See, I might have a little too much now. I put about, I'd say about 6.5 gallons. And I remember that's about how much I put last time, 6.5, 7. So what I'm gonna do, I actually don't think I'm perfectly level. I'm a little uphill, so I could be getting a false reading right here. So what I'm gonna leave it at this level and then let it sit, do its thing, and then park it on a perfectly level surface, check it again, and then we'll add some later. Okay, we're gonna start the front axle draining of fluid here. And again, that's nice. It's a 17 millimeter, same as the transmission. There we go. A little murky. We'll crack the top since we need to fill it from the top anyways. Yeah, it's clear with the purple tint to it. Let's crack the top up here. And that is helping it drain, as you can see. Now it's rushing out really good. Well, while the gear oil is still draining, I'm going to replace the fuel filter right here. And the manual doesn't have the most detailed instructions on how to do this, but I believe that because the gas tank is below this height, there shouldn't be much pressure or any pressure in the system in case I take off the tubes. It might dribble a little bit, but I could pinch this lower one. Okay, we've got some pliers here, and I'm hoping not too much fuel comes out of here. Let's move that down there. That one over there. Okay, good. Tuck him right there. That's awesome. And then we have a number 14 millimeter that we're going to remove this with. Your water will separate, go to the bottom. But anyhow, yeah, it just looks more swollen. Here's the, I don't know if that's because the fluid's in there. No, it is swollen because here's the new one, look. So that's how much smaller the ring is. So it definitely swelled up. I'm just gonna put it back in place right here. Pretty easy location. That is definitely a plus. So I'll tighten the nuts and put those hoses back on and put the clamps back on. What we're gonna do is use the bleeder screw on top of the filter right here and use that to bleed air out. I'm gonna turn on the key so that this lift pump lifts fuel into this and bleeds out there, and then I'll shut the key off, and then I will take this tube, the other fuel tube which runs lateral this way. I'm going to lift it up, pour fuel in it, and then tilt it back down just to try to eliminate any possibility of air being in there, because I'm just worried about an air bubble being in there. So I see a little drizzle on the top. Oh, I hear air now. Okay, kind of get a little drip. All right, so now I'll tighten that. Screw down. Oh, and I still see air there. So I want to knock that. All right, hopefully you can see that's the bottom of the gear oil, that purplish kind of tint. A little cloudy, but it might be just because of what it's touching. You know, the pan wasn't perfectly clean. But I need to go do the other side of the axle to get what might be in the bottom. We're going to fill up the front axle with the gear oil. These two should be at, this one's partially full, but we're gonna stick this in and then check on the other side, the dipstick, because I think right now I have about 5.5 liters because this isn't full. And again, the manual says 6.4 liters is what it can take. So let's go ahead and fill her up. Okay, now we're gonna flush the radiator, and of course the manual just says remove the radiator cap and drain plug. It doesn't show you where, but obviously looking at the bottom, this is the only thing I find which is close to the lowest spot, which is not the prettiest of a cap. It's just a rubber nipple type thing. So I'm going to see if I can hook up one of these hoses, and this should work. Oh, look at that. I love when things work out. Okay, let me open the cap. Yep. So looking at the fluid, doesn't look too murky-worky. Looks actually pretty good using a clear tube. Takes 1.32 US gallons, and this is concentrate, so we will mix it. We'll pour half of this and then we'll mix it. This is 1 gallon, so I'll pour a little more than half of this bottle. Now always fill with distilled water so you don't get mineral buildup or deposits on your components. Okay, here's a little extra coolant reservoir right down there. There's just a little hose clamp. I'll loosen that, take this off, empty that, and then we'll get that filled up. And then we'll do the air filter next. This is just a little cube that can hold mint. It's like a cotton cube in there. Fill it with mint oil to keep the rodents away. It helps. It's not perfect. And yes, everything is dirty, but don't worry, we take good care of this tractor. We're gonna wash this. Probably use a little baking soda to neutralize that, clean this all up. Again, wash your tractor before you maintenance it. And then you want your loader up or off your tractor so that you can pull this screen out. It doesn't come out because this is in the way. And I'm in the middle of fixing my joystick because I broke it. Not the brand fault, it's my fault. We need to take that air filter screen off, clean that. As you can see, it's dirty, but let's go ahead and do this as well as the coolant here. So we're gonna take this off. Oh yeah, she is cakey. So we're gonna clean all of this. Oops. Oh, so yeah, we'll just get rid of her. She is, well, she's clean on the inside, so the filter's doing this job, just starving the engine a little bit. All right, so we're gonna get all the dust out of here. Nice new shiny filter. Look at that, pre-greased. That's nice, just to fit over that nice. And to air seal it to not let dust in. Okay, we're all clean on the inside cap. We're gonna stick this back on. It says top up, so no messing that up. We're going to start greasing all the grease points right there, and then we have a pivot one right there for your axle, and the other steering joint, and then all your joints on your loader arms. should be greased. And before I grease them, I'm gonna wipe a little off. I know the new grease will push this out, but it gets to a point where you gotta do a little house maintenance, you know? And that way, I don't know, you might also discover something. All right, we're gonna get the front. The grease we're gonna use is made by Blaster. It's a maximum heavy duty grease, extreme pressure. It's good for high speed, wheel bearings. It's kind of an all around grease. It shows good for joints like this right here. And I've used different types of grease. I'm not really too set on any particular one, but this is where I definitely love guys to chime in on what they use for what parts of equipment. So let's get started. I got it already loaded, and I have my lock and lube fitting on here to go on the Zerk, and we're gonna go until we see some come out. But if you guys own a tractor, you probably already know this. But another thing, like I said, it was good that I was cleaning off all the gunk off the other nipples, because I found that I had one loose nipple over there. I need to tighten it. But let's go until we see some goodness. All right, put the lock and lube on. There you go, right out of the top. A little extra for love. If you have to tighten your Zerks, it's a 7mm. But be very careful, because as you know, there's only like 5 or 6 threads, so we're just gonna go just a little snug. Tie rod ends here, and you'll see that boot blow up here. Yeah, you see it move. Yeah, there we go. And then the grease comes out of there. A little relief port, I guess. We are ready to start the engine, and then after that I can shut it off, and then we'll let it sit, and then we'll check the dipsticks on everything and the level of the coolant, and we'll refill accordingly. So let's see if it starts up. I'm a little nervous just because I changed the fuel filter. Let me get my key. All right, here we go. Sounding good so far. We are gonna get this all cleaned up because it is nasty. Oh man. Oh, or take your loader off. All right, more of this solution just to neutralize all components, and I'll come back with my battery scraper cleaner and do the insides of these terminal ends here. All right. You're not going to do your big tune-ups that often, so you should go as far as taking these terminal ends off or battery post connectors and clean them all up. I'm going to see if these batteries can be topped off with a little distilled water. Yeah, it looks like they can use a little bit, about up to the bottom of the green portion, I believe is where we need to fill those with distilled water. But we gotta wipe carefully around those circles. We don't want any of that dirt to get in there, so that's what I'll do. All right, before we hook up the battery, I'm gonna clean the terminals with a cleaner, and then we'll protect the whole connection with this battery corrosion preventative. It's that red stuff that gets sprayed on top. Works pretty good, so let's get started. All right, now I got to show you guys. I'm going to secure this, but I had a little corrosion on this metal bar they used to hold down the battery. It's a nice, strong, decent bar, zinc plated, or I'm not sure what it is, but it's still rusted with the corrosion. But I cleaned it up. It has sharp edges. I was gonna deburr the edges and then rubber dip it, but I figured, you know what, I got a bunch of this fire hose, so I cut some of this fire hose, and that'll stop the corrosion for the battery, you know, from the acid getting on that. And this is nice Goodyear fire hose material. So we'll fasten that down, get these on, and then bada bing, bada bing. Let that dry for a second, and then we'll put the caps on. Don't forget to remove your loader. It makes life a lot easier. But if it's still on, then lift it so that you can get to the radiator screen. So you just remove your screw and drop it just like that. And then wiggle it. And then you got a little dirt. Get your compressed air. And then after that, we're gonna wash it all. Before I wash it, I want to remove these rubber pads that are just held on by some rubber push pins. So you see, because mud and dirt gets trapped under here, and I don't want the water to sit in there any longer than it has. Remember, when you're doing your maintenance, you want to keep an eye out for any loose cables or nuts, anything that's out of the ordinary. So here's an example. I see this press pin. It's right there. It should be going all the way through this shaft here. This is the brake pedal lever or pivot arm. So I need to get a little hammer, get it aligned, and tap that back in. Okay, I'm just using a very light Dawn solution just to get off the dust, so it doesn't start caking over the ears. And I'm using a very light spray on my pressure washer, so don't worry about that. Be careful. But thanks for watching, because this was a long video, but there was a lot of information I needed to cover. And if you guys still have questions, leave them in the comments below. And also consider joining the Branson Tractor Forum on Facebook. A lot of helpful guys on there, a lot of info. And that way we can help each other out, because things aren't seamless between owning this tractor and looking up answers or information in the manuals that are available for it. So we can fill those gaps, helping each other out. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you at the next one.